All right. Hi, everyone. I am thrilled to be here at ProductCon AI to talk with you about storytelling for product leaders in the age of AI. So I am Tricia Maia. I'm currently head of product at TED, where I oversee our digital products from our consumer websites and apps to our event tech, media platforms, data localization, and support. I have actually been in product for over 14 years and have been very fortunate to work across many different industries and company stages from early stage startups to Fortune 15s and many, many things in between. So today we're going to talk about a skill that doesn't often show up in the current dialogue around AI, but deeply shapes the products we build and how people respond to them. So that skill is storytelling in terms of how product leaders can use it, not only to pressure test and explain the AI features that you're building, but to influence decisions, align teams, and lead with clarity. So specifically, I want to talk about two things that feel paradoxical, but are actually deeply connected. One, why human storytelling is your advantage in an AI saturated world. And two, how you can actually use AI to sharpen those storytelling muscles even more. So I have a deep-seated aversion to AI hype. So I'm going to try to make this as practical as possible with real product use cases and also sharing how we can apply some of TED's own storytelling secret sauce to everything from executive alignment to go-to-market comms. So if you work in product, you've probably been asked by some well-meaning executive to just add AI. It doesn't matter if it solves a real problem, but the pressure is real. And now in 2025, it feels like every product update starts with the same line. We've added AI. But the story behind it is often missing. Why this feature? Why now? Why does it matter? Because here's what we forget. Every product is a story, whether you tell it intentionally or not. You're not just launching functionality, you are guiding people through some sort of transformation. You're also telling stories every time you pitch an idea to your CEO, or every time you try to rally your team or justify trade-offs to stakeholders. Great product leaders don't just ship, they persuade, they inspire, and they really try to bring people along the journey. So today I want to reframe storytelling not as a soft skill, but actually as a product leadership superpower. So at TED, we are obviously in the business of spreading ideas, but more than that, we're in the business of helping people communicate those ideas with conviction, emotional resonance, and purpose. So we've spent over 40 years helping people turn complexity into clarity and helping ideas travel further, faster, and more meaningfully through the power of storytelling. So every day we are coaching scientists, technologists, educators, people with really powerful ideas, but who aren't always clear on how to make them stick. And over, we've learned when you get the story right, everything else follows. And this can apply to product too. Our job is to communicate effectively and guide people through change, whether that's a new workflow for your user, a strategy shift for your team, or a priority list for your execs. Because people don't follow roadmaps, they follow stories. So let's be honest, how many AI launches have you seen in the past 12 months that actually felt human-centered, that solved a need in a way that made people feel seen and empowered? You can see it all around. Features that are technically impressive, but somehow miss the mark. Launch copy that clearly reads like it was written by ChatGPT. Promises of AI-powered magic that don't actually let people's lives better, or really worse, it actually does them harm. So the fundamentals of good product work haven't changed. You still need to start by talking to users, observing behavior, identifying pain points or opportunities, and grounding your work in a solid strategy. That means solving a real need and only then choosing the most effective tools to deliver it. Technology should serve the strategy, not be the strategy. But lately, the order seems to have flipped. We're starting with the tech and trying to reverse engineer the user story. And here's the main risk in terms of your professional development. Communication and product judgment are muscles. If you let AI do the heavy lifting and outsource the thinking too often, those muscles atrophy. AI makes it easier than ever to skip the hard parts, but that deep work is actually where your credibility and resonance come from, and crucially, where you develop your own conviction and your own voice as a leader. So at TED, one of the frameworks we like to use to help our speakers structure their ideas is the following, and you can apply it to product too. Every talk and every product narrative needs a story. So you want to lead your audience through a journey, not a lecture, and really think like a guide. Examples or metaphors. Can you make your message relatable, visual, concrete, whether that's through some specific examples or comparisons or other tangible imagery? Data. What evidence supports your point? But be careful not to overwhelm your audience with numbers. You want to use the right data at the right time to make people believe in what you're saying. And lastly, solutions. What will the user or stakeholder now be able to do, feel, or understand? You want to be really clear on what the gift or transformation you're leaving your audience with is. And we layer on some delivery principles too. First, that you are leading with who your audience is and what they need, and only then connecting your idea to that. Or practice what our head of speaker coaching, Briar Goldberg, likes to call your ABCs, audience before content. And two, that you speak simply, and three, authentically. You want to be yourself and not a performer. As actually the most powerful TED Talks aren't always the most polished, they're the most real, and they make the complex simple. Now, frameworks are only as good as the way that you use them. So let me show you what this looked like in practice when we were under the same exact pressure to just add AI. So we tried a lot. Internally, there was pressure, like many of you have felt, to use AI somehow, some way. So we did. We built a chatbot trained on TED Talks to answer questions like an expert, written articles that attempted to convert full-length talks into AI summaries, AI quote cards using talk transcripts and speaker highlights, and AI quizzes to help users test their understanding of a talk. So they all technically worked, but strategically they landed flat. Not because the models failed, but because the story did. It wasn't grounded in a bigger picture need, desire, or dare I say, job to be done. They felt like solutions in search of a problem. There were no vivid examples or metaphors embedded in the product experience to help users understand or emotionally connect to the utility. The data didn't show they were solving real needs, engagement didn't improve, and the solutions felt generic and ultimately forgettable. Nothing that reflected our brand, our users, or our mission. So we took a different approach. We started not with the tech, but with the user. We asked, what real challenges does our audience face when they're engaging with ideas? So that led us to short form video. So users often told us, I don't know where to start. So we created short, visually engaging, AI-assisted previews of TED Talks that help users decide quickly whether a talk fits into their interests or mood. AI takeaways. So after watching, users often wanted to revisit or reflect on what they learned. So we generated concise, high-quality takeaways that users can save to their profiles for future reference. This really became a tool for learning, recall, and sharing. And we also built it in a way to minimize our carbon footprint. So insights are generated once per talk for all users. They're not constantly regenerating with every additional view. Curated personalization. So this isn't just algorithmic targeting. We actually combine individual user behavior with decades of editorial expertise, which is fact-checked, curated, and contextually aware. And so the result is a discovery experience that blends AI's adaptability with TED's HI, or human intelligence. So recommendations feel relevant and also aligned with the TED ethos. AI dubbing. So our audience is global, but English is obviously not universal. So we introduced AI-powered dubbing that doesn't just translate, it actually preserves the speaker's voice, emotion, and realistic lip movements. So the result is something that feels global, but also deeply human. Not shown here, but in an era where everyone assumes digital support equals AI, we are intentionally positioning our human concierge app at TED events to emphasize our real human touch and make attendees feel seen. So in a world of automation, we are offering white glove humanity behind the screen, and we really want to make sure that people know that. So these succeeded where others failed because they embodied the full storytelling framework. They laddered up to a clear story, respecting content consumption preferences, expanding global access, and scaling engagement through a combination of editorial and AI insights. They weren't one-off AI widgets with no common through line. They offered relatable examples, like someone discovering a dubbed talk in their native language that they previously would have never watched, or a student saving takeaways to reinforce key insights and codify their learning journey with TED over time, which we were sure to weave into our marketing material and onboarding experience. They were backed by data, so there were real behavioral signals beforehand, and we saw measurable impact after we launched as well. So improved watch times, return visits, and content shares all improved. And they delivered real solutions. So users feeling more powered, more curious, and more connected to our brand. So crucially, they felt authentically TED, not hype driven, but rooted in our mission to make complex ideas understandable and accessible across the globe. So in other words, we didn't start with AI. We started with the problem and the strategy and built from there, which made all the difference. So everyone has access to the same models and eventually will learn the most useful prompts. But what sets great teams apart is not the tech, it's how they think, prioritize, and communicate. And more dangerously, AI can become a crutch. It makes it really easy to skip the discomfort of ambiguity, the hard thinking, the thorny problems, the tough trade-offs. But those moments are where product judgment is sharpened. Yes, AI can help analyze feedback and draft roadmaps, but your CEO isn't going to blame the AI if the strategy fails. The buck stops with you, and your accountability and reputation are on the line. Sure, AI can write PRDs and launch copy, but only you can truly empathize with your users' needs and deliver messaging that resonates with them. So if you rely too heavily on AI, you will lose your edge. And again, these are muscles. So critical thinking, narrative clarity, emotional intelligence. If you don't work them, you lose them. And this is why storytelling matters now more than ever. Because there are 3 human capabilities AI can't do as well as humans, and that will define the next generation of product leadership. So the first is true critical thinking. So this is synthesizing ambiguity, weighing nuance, and holding multiple truths in tension, especially when the data is incomplete. Emotional resonance, so crafting user stories and creating real connection that lands with users, execs, and teams. You want to use your humanity to your advantage. You are not a robot. And persuasive delivery. So this is the ability to influence and speak with clarity and conviction. AI literally can't command the room. And those are still your job, and they are still your superpower in an increasingly AI world. And don't get me wrong, AI can absolutely help us become better storytellers too. But most people stop at the surface. Give me a talk outline, write my update, summarize this meeting. But here's how you can use it more strategically. 1, as a thought partner. Ask it to simulate different audiences or objections to stress test your narrative. For perspective shifting, use AI to rewrite your message in the voice of a skeptical exec, a first-time user, or a team on a tight deadline. To ideate metaphors. So feed in a user problem and ask for analogies from sports, parenting, cooking, whatever. It helps find the emotional resonance you may be struggling with. And as a story architect, prompt it to help map your talk or deck to TED storytelling frameworks. So what I'm trying to say is don't just let AI generate your thinking, use it to deepen it. So let me show you something most product leaders aren't doing, but should be, to take AI one step further. To use it to simulate the feedback you'd get from the toughest stakeholders in the room. What if you could rehearse your story with a time crunch CEO, an engineer, a board member, or a discerning customer? Each of these agents can challenge your narrative using our storytelling lens. So let's simulate one live. So I'm gonna just swap my screen and show you something that I created. Okay, so I created a custom GPT based on these frameworks to role play with product leaders on their arguments, whether written or verbal. So let's say you wanted to spar with a skeptical CEO and have them critique your product roadmap. So I'll select the first prompt and put in my pitch to see what it says. So let's see. Oh, wait, no. Okay, so let's see. I think TED should ditch the whole conference thing. It's too complicated. We need to reach younger audiences. So we should get into making the TED branded Boo Boo Dolls. That sounds like a good idea. Let's say what they say. Oh, ouch, 3 out of 10. Didn't really get a great response. It's giving me what's working. So I got an attention grabber at the beginning. That's nice. Mentioned younger audiences, so that's somewhat strategically relevant. But yeah, let's build a journey. Let's not thrust it upon people. Explain the why. It's probably fair. So okay, that's okay. So here's where it gets even more useful. What if I'm not just pressure testing the idea, but also the delivery? So I can record a voice memo of me pitching it, upload the audio, and get structured feedback on my verbal delivery. Does it sound confident and clear? Does my tone land? Am I rushing or rambling? Is the emotional arc there? So I'm actually just going to open a voice memo on my phone and try an audio proposal. So I think Ted really needs to ditch the whole conference thing. Let's be honest, too complicated. Flights, badges, stage builds, logistical nightmare. If we really want to get and reach younger audiences, there's only one path forward. Ted branded Labubu dolls. Imagine a wide-eyed Labubu whispering, ideas change everything from your bookshelf. This isn't just merchandise, it's a movement. All right, so I am now going to upload my audio proposal and ask it to please assess the attached audio pitch. Okay, let's see what they say. Oof, impact score 3 out of 10. Ideas provocative, but it made it feel uncertain rather than bold. Okay, 2 biggest issues: lack of conviction. It sounded hesitant. Fair. All right, flat energy. Okay, I can see what they're saying. Your tone stayed even and subdued, so the idea lost its spark. Fair. Okay, how to strengthen delivery. Own your stance, pause with purpose, add vocal texture. So you can see, even though the idea and delivery were a bit weak, there's still areas that I can strengthen, and it's really focusing me where to iterate in the next go, and sort of ending with some rewrite suggestions. All right, so that example was obviously a bit tongue-in-cheek, but the point is I'm not just improving my idea, I am improving how I communicate it. And this is the magic. AI isn't replacing your story, it's stress testing it and helping build the muscles to deliver it well. Tools like this are scaffolding. They won't do the work for you, but they'll make your thinking stronger and hopefully your storytelling a bit sharper. So here's a quick gut check before you launch a product, pitch an idea, or explain a feature. What story are you telling? What relatable examples or metaphors can you use? Do you have data that this matters? What solution or gift are you leaving your audience with? What will they actually be able to experience or do? And are you delivering your message with your audience top of mind, simply and authentically? So let me leave you with this. AI fluency will become table stakes, but storytelling is your moat. And as I talked about today, AI can't easily replace critical thinking, emotional resonance, and clear and convincing delivery, which are really, really hard to do well. How you say it is just as important as what you say. And relying too heavily on AI doesn't just weaken your output, it weakens your thinking. If you skip the messy parts of the process, your skills will atrophy. You can, however, thoughtfully leverage AI to help refine your storytelling skills, just like we saw with my custom GPT. Just make sure you are the author and the AI is your assistant and not the other way around. So in an age where AI is increasingly doing the easy part, what will set you apart is your ability to do the hard, messy, human part well. For those of you leading teams or mentoring others, help them build this muscle too. Because as the tools evolve, the temptation to chase novelty and offload thinking grows. But the real differentiator isn't in what you build, it's in how you clearly communicate why it matters. Storytelling is how we distill complexity, highlight value, and align teams. And again, it's not a soft skill, it's a strategic one. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you can walk away with something that helps you build with more empathy, clarity, and confidence. I'd love to continue the conversation, so you can find me on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in diving into Ted's communication methodology even more, we actually have a very rare, first time live public training hosted by Ted's head of speaker coaching, Briar Goldberg, who I briefly mentioned earlier and has coached some of the literal greats. It is next month, September 4th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So if you're curious, feel free to scan the QR code or go to this link. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time to hear my story today. And I wish you a great rest of your ProductCon experience.